How do you pay taxes as a single member LLC? This is a conversation we want to have in today's video. This is an important conversation because a lot of single member LLCs have no idea how to pay taxes on their business or on their personal activities. Don't you go anywhere. You're going to love today's conversation. I guarantee it. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of the Awesome Sort of Kiwi Show. How are you today? I hope you're all doing fantastic. I'm doing marvelous, if you were to ask me. If you are doing as great as I am, go grab a cup of coffee or tea or vodka. Now let's roll. In today's conversation, we want to talk about how to pay taxes as a single member LLC. It's very important to go back to the origins. Let's have single member LLC 101. What is the definition? Well, a single member LLC is an LLC with just one voting member, you. Okay, you, the LLC owner, you who are listening to me right now. So multi-member LLCs, they have multiple members who vote on major decisions and share ownership of the company. So whether they have a single member or, let's say, a single owner or many, all LLCs come with liability protection, limited liability company. Okay, and that means what? So if your company is sued or party to, let's say, a legal action, or cannot pay its debts or federal tax, your personal assets, as opposed to the money in your business bank account, cannot be seized. So your personal assets are preserved. Very important. So when deciding whether a single member LLC is right for you, make sure that you speak to someone. You got to speak to a CPA, an EA, an enrolled agent, or you can talk to a lawyer so that you get the best legal advice. Because here we are just giving you general information. Okay, so when we talk about single member LLC or multiple member LLC, there's something called the corporate veil. This is really important. Now, the corporate veil is actually a type of protection that an LLC gives you from liability. In other words, basically, you are protected from any kind of liability. Okay, but the corporate veil has one weakness, you. Because to pierce the corporate veil means that you are mixing personal and business assets. This is something you should never do, because in the event you are sued or someone, let's say, levies your assets and you have pierced the corporate veil, a court of law may rule your liability protection null and void. Okay, so you definitely don't want that. So because that brings personal liability into effect, meaning that your personal assets can be seized. Okay, one thing I want to say here before we go into the nitty-gritty here is that a single member LLC is not a sole proprietorship. I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. Even if you pay taxes like a sole proprietorship, this is an election you can do. A single member LLC is not a sole proprietorship, because unlike a sole proprietorship, a single member LLC can elect how it files taxes as a pass-through entity or a corporation. It can bring on additional members. It can protect members' assets from liability. Okay, very important. And that being said, an LLC structure may not be the best type of business entity for you. So it's always important to understand the pros and cons, the benefits and the detriments of that type of legal structure. So speaking about legal structure, let's talk about that. What are the pros and cons of a single member LLC? Remember, a single member LLC, as I just said before, is not a sole proprietorship. Even though you are just by yourself, even though there is only one person in the business, it is not a sole proprietorship. It is a business. So here are the pros of a single member LLC. Here are the pros. So you have liability protection. So an LLC is a separate legal entity. So you have the ability to bring on new members, because you can start as a single member LLC, but later on you can become a multi-member LLC. This is totally possible, not a problem. You have a flexible federal income tax filing process. In other words, you can choose to file as a sole proprietor or a corporation. There is an election that you have to make, and you can pass an ownership to others. For example, family members, friends. Okay. What about the cons? You have to file lots of paperwork to form one. So you have to understand, when you have a sole proprietorship, you form automatically when you start your business. Okay, when you start doing business, there's nothing you have to do. But if you are a single member LLC, you have to file articles of organization. You have to have a registered agent service. You got to have the proper licenses and permits in the industry. Okay, based on your states, you might have to file an annual report in order to have a certificate of good standing. So there's a lot of paperwork. But again, listen, with that type of paperwork comes what? Comes protection, legal protection, okay, liability protection. So one of the detriments of having a single member LLC is that you must submit compliance forms to prove that you are following the rules and stay in good standing. Okay, you must also maintain corporate veil. So piercing it puts your assets at risk, and this is really important. And the best way to do this is to just segregate your personal affairs from your business affairs. So you want to have a business account, a business bank account. You want to have a business credit cards. So you're not you like in your everyday dealings, you do not mix business with private matters. Okay, it's very important. And again, you have to do this not only for the courts to maintain this liability that you have, but also for the IRS. So when you file your taxes, then you have a clear segregation, a clear separation of things. So they know if you were ever to be audited, the IRS will see that, okay, you have actually maintained this corporate veil. Let's quickly talk about the formation of a single member LLC, because if you're watching this show, either you currently have a single member LLC or you are thinking about forming one. So it's really important to understand the process that you have to go through if you were to form you were to form a new single member LLC. So in order to form this type of company, or let's say you want to convert your sole proprietorship to a single member LLC, you need to do the following. You need to register a business name. Very important. Okay, you have a clear idea of the name and make sure that the name is available. Usually you have to go to your state department. They have a department of companies, and you got to go to your department of state in the state where you reside, and you got to go to their website and type in the name that you want to choose and see if that name is available. You need to apply for an employer identification number. So that's your EIN. So you do this with the IRS. You go online, you just plug in some relevant data, and the IRS will actually issue you an EIN. It happens like within 5 to 10 minutes. Okay. You need to designate a registered agent. So this is the person who receives all tax correspondence and other regulatory correspondence. The thing is, you can be your own registered agent, but we do not recommend that because you need to separate again your business affairs from your personal affairs, and you want everything to go to a registered agent, especially things that actually touch on legal affairs, legal matters. Like if you're party to a lawsuit and all that kind of stuff, you don't want to have this at home. You don't want to receive correspondence about this lawsuit at home. No. You need to file articles of organization with your Secretary of State. So the filing fee, business licenses, and the information you must provide varies state by state. And as I said before, you need to open a business bank account. Okay, very important. You need to stick to your state's compliance requirements, because a lot of states have different compliance requirements. So when we talk about compliance requirements, you have to think about things like filing annual reports, paying state taxes, or submitting an operating agreement. Again, the requirements vary state by state, and you need to abide with all hiring laws if you're an employer. Okay, so this is really important. Simply because you are a single member LLC doesn't mean that you do not hire people. You can hire people, but make sure that you do not run afoul of any law at all. Any laws, not only federally but also state-wise. Let's talk about paying taxes. So paying business tax as a single member LLC. This is important. Now, I want to clarify things. By default, and this is just by default, your single member LLC is taxed as a sole proprietorship. So in that case, the IRS looks at your LLC as what they call a disregarded entity. Disregarded entity. That means that even though it is illegally a separate entity from your person, You and your small business are one and the same for income tax purposes. So you need to file the same income tax return. Now, if you want to get away from that default proposition, that default format, you can elect to file using the rules for a C corporation or S corporation. Then you will need to complete a separate corporate income tax return. Simply put, you have a say in how you want your LLC to be taxed. Okay, and the thing is, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you can ask questions below. You can put your questions below, or even better, contact a tax professional so you can determine what's best for you. Okay, you can actually contact an EA, an enrolled agent, a CPA, a certified public accountant, a tax preparer, a professional tax preparer, or you can contact a tax lawyer. So let's just break down the basics for you here when we talk about paying business tax as a single member LLC. So if you file as a sole proprietor, so to elect, you don't have to do anything. You are automatically treated as a sole proprietor if you do not elect another status. So to file, you need to report all business income on Schedule C of your personal tax return, and this is your IRS form 1040. And you have to use your social security number. If you have to file as a C corporation, to elect, you need to file IRS form 8832 to confirm your tax status. And to file, you need to report all business income on IRS form 1120. And that income will be taxed at the corporate rate. So keep in mind that any dividends or salary you earn from your small business as your single member LLC will also be taxed as personal income on IRS form 1040. So for this reason, single member LLCs rarely elect to file as C corporation. What about filing as an S corporation? How do you elect that? Well, you need to file IRS form 2553. And you need to report all business income on IRS form 1120S. So keep in mind that an S corporation is a pass-through entity, so you'll pay your personal tax rate on all business income. Okay, so this is really important. So why bother filing as an S corporation? Well, when you elect to file as an S corporation, the IRS does not treat you as a self-employed individual. So you don't need to file self-employment tax like you normally would when filing as a sole proprietorship. Let's talk about how do you pay yourself as a single member LLC. This is an important element to understand. Now, as a single member LLC, if you pay personal expenses directly with your business profits, you will definitely pierce the corporate veil. This is something we have said before. You really need to make sure that you don't pierce that veil. So to maintain liability protection and keep your bookkeeping organized, it's very important that you need to pay yourself through distributions. So as a single member LLC owner, you need to cut a check and record it on the books as an owner's draw. Very important. It's called owner's draw. It's not a salary. It is not a bill that you're paying to yourself. It is not an invoice. No. It is an owner's draw. So you don't need to apply payroll taxes to this draw as you are not an employee. But if you plan on filing taxes as a sole proprietorship, you will need to pay self-employment tax to the IRS. This is really important to understand. So when you cut a check to yourself every month or every 2 weeks or every quarter, what have you, you need to record it in your books as an owner's draw. So what about hiring employees as a single member LLC? Well, a single member LLC is able to hire and pay employees. As I said before, this is totally possible. Simply because you are only one person doesn't mean that you cannot hire people. You can hire people. As a business owner, you will need to be sure that you are withholding payroll taxes and paying them to the IRS. So payroll taxes include unemployment insurance, Medicare, Social Security. Obviously, there are also requirements at the state level, right, in terms of unemployment, in terms of all other types of state income taxes. They're important. So we have actually covered this on another show. We have an entire show on unemployment taxes. So this is important. And overall, there are lots of considerations when deciding the right entity for you to make sure that you talk to, or that you make sure that you're not running afoul of the laws. So this is why we always say this is the first the first step in you trying to understand the whole thing. If you need more clarifications, you can ask us questions below. But most importantly, and even better, it's wonderful to contact a professional, a tax professional yourself, so you get better, more direct answers to your questions. Okay, you can always contact, as I said before, a CPA, an EA, a tax lawyer, or just a regular tax preparer. I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another session of the Awesome Sweaty Kiwi Show. We're also having a conversation about how to pay taxes as a single member LLC. So let's talk about compliance. And there are, as I was just talking to you earlier, that if you have an owner's draw, right? If you're paying yourself and every month or every 2 weeks or every quarter, and you decide to file as a sole proprietorship, you need to think about estimated quarterly tax payments. Okay, so the U.S. operates as a pay-as-you-go tax system, meaning that you have to make income tax payments throughout the year. If you complete your LLC taxes using the default tax status, default single member or multi-member LLC, you will need to make estimated income tax payments. So these tax payments are due 4 different times a year. So they are due in April, in June, in September, and January of the following year. So, and the thing is, there is a form called 1040ES. So this is a form that you can use to make estimated tax payments, or if you can make payments online. And the IRS has they have the IRS Direct Pay, or the Electronic Federal Tax Payment Systems. Okay, the EFTPS. This is kind of cool. And one thing I want to say here is that please do not forget to keep track of your payments date, because you will need to report them on your tax returns. Okay, the IRS wants to be clear that you are definitely staying on top of your fiscal obligations. So whether you have one member in your LLC or multiple, when you earn income from business activities, the IRS requires you to pay self-employment taxes on your earnings. So this is a total of 15.3%, which covers Medicare taxes and Social Security taxes. Okay, so you can use Schedule SE to calculate how much self-employment tax you owe. So if you elect to be treated as an S corporation or a C corporation, you will not need to pay self-employment taxes. I'm talking about Medicare and Social Security. The corporations will pay payroll taxes instead, and those taxes will be taken out of your paycheck. Okay. What about state income taxes? Well, you have to understand now. In this show, we are covering federal income tax, but you can also you need to also make sure that you don't run afoul of state income taxes, right? So the thing is, you need to file this state income tax to report LLC income. You just want to check your state requirements for due dates, tax forms required, and any fees. You may even need to pay annual filing fees in some states, and you don't want to miss those. Okay, very important. So, for example, it is very expensive to form limited liability companies in California. The state charges a minimum annual filing fee of $800. Think about that. Okay, and if your business earns more than $250,000, your annual filing fee will be higher, up to $11,790 for a company earning $5 million or more. So you got to think about those things. Very important. I want to share with you another, let's say, other helpful information, so that you are really you are compliant when it comes to paying taxes as a single member LLC. Let's talk about the tax return due dates. Okay, there are many different ways that LLC taxes are paid, and because of this and all the different tax forms, there are several different due dates. Here is a breakdown. So single member LLC, your Schedule C and Schedule SC are due April 15th. Multi-member LLC, Form 1065 and Schedule K1 are due March 15th. Schedule E and Schedule SE are due April 15th. For an S corporation, the 1120S and K1 are due March 15th. And for a C corporation, the 1120 is due April 15th. So those due dates are based on the business using a calendar year, when the business year ends on December 31st. Okay, and if you can't get your LLC taxes done by those due dates, you can file an extension. So, but knowing, this is important to mention, knowingly ignoring a deadline would only lead to failure to file penalties. Note that this gives you an extension to file your taxes, but you still need to actually pay those taxes by the original due date. Okay, and can your LLC get a tax refund once you have filed correctly? You may wonder if the IRS will send your LLC a check for any overpayments. Aside from the C corporation, all other tax statuses are pass-through entities, meaning that the individual pays taxes and receives taxes. So only C corporations can get a refund. For any other LLC filing types, the business owner will receive the refund. So you are going to receive a refund if you overpay at the single member LLC level. Okay, so you will get your excess tax payment back, but it will be you receiving the money personally instead of your LLC getting a refund check. And so, can you file your LLC taxes separately? Well, the thing is, as I've tried to explain in this conversation, since an LLC is a business, you can actually file taxes separately from your personal tax return. Yes and no. Yeah, it really depends on your LLC tax structure. So if you're a single member LLC, a partnership, or an S corporation, these are all pass-through entities. That means all profits and losses flow through to your personal tax return, your 1040. But if you are being taxed as a partnership or an S corporation, you need to send in separate returns and include the income and losses of the LLC on your 1040 individual tax return. But if you elect to be taxed as a C corporation, you will complete your tax return separately. Income or losses from the business don't flow to your individual income tax return. Very important. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. In today's conversation, I was talking to you about how to pay taxes as a single member LLC. Remember that LLC tax filing can be a challenge, so it never hurts to revisit tax requirements, especially when filing as an LLC for the first time. Okay, and please seek the advice of a tax professional. So I gave you a definition. We spoke about the pros and cons, the formation, paying taxes, your own salary, compliance, and I gave you a bit of helpful information to better understand how single member LLC tax filing works. Thank you so much. I will see you next time, but until then, remember, stay marvelous.